Hello, everybody. Welcome to my favorite shitty movie. I'm so excited about this episode. This is like, I feel like years in the making since the show started. I'm like, I really, really, really want to get P. David Ebersol and Todd Hughes on the show. And they've just been busy doing, frankly, really important projects and didn't have as much time for this one, but that's okay. It's all good. They both have published books recently. We'll talk about that a little bit later. They are currently on a writer's retreat in Mexico, writing both of their own next books. They've done a bunch of documentaries. You're film nerds, so you've probably seen Room 237, wonderful Jane Mansfield doc about Anton LaVey, which we should also probably do a whole special one. But just saying, Trini Lopez, Cher, they're very into Pierre Cardin, pop culture, amazing people, writers, directors, producers, just awesome. And they're married to each other and they can work and live together, which is massively inspiring for many of us. So kudos to the guys. We are here tonight to talk about the second airport film in, I guess, the series. Of course, it all started with Airport back in the day, which somehow was nominated for Best Picture. Doesn't hold up. But the good news is that we got Airport 75, which comes out in 1974. And that's the film that we are here to talk about this evening. I think it's amazing the show has been going on. This is our 175th episode. And somehow none of our guests thought to do Airport 75. Thank God we're correcting that this evening. It's fantastic. It has a who's who of everybody. What's so wonderful, I think, about Airport 75, which we'll dig into with everybody, is it's such a time capsule of the period in which it was made. So you had some wonderful old stars from the classic Hollywood era, but also, you had Poncherello a couple years before Chips came up with Eric Estrada. Anytime you have like Myrna Loy, Dana Andrews, and Eric Estrada on the same title list, questions, they come up. All right, we're going to try to answer some of those. It's wonderful. Before we get too much further along, I want to bring up my co-captain in Mayhem. You know him as Todd Anderson. He's an amazing guy and actor and just, I don't know, kind of bon vivant. And he is Mr. Deep Cut when it comes to deep horror films. We love him. We call him Todd. Todd Murdoch this evening. Come on up.
Hi, everybody. It's me, Todd.
Todd.
I'm very Generation X because when I rewatched this movie the other day, tell me if you did this, but this is what I did. Like just not too long into the running time of the film, I went like this. Oh my God, it's Large Marge!
Totally. There are so many things in this movie, hey Jimmy, that I love so much. I mean, just everything about it, the way they introduce stars, real stars back when we had them. And it's just this glorious, like, camptastic movie where all women are objects and oogled and talked down to and mansplained to for the whole runtime, which again was under 2 hours. We love that. And
they can't fix the problem by themselves. They can't do it.
They can't do it, even though Karen Black really does it for most of the film. But it's fine. Thank God Moses is there with his turtlenecks and his, to like boom in and save us all.
Yellow turtleneck through the whole movie.
It's such a delight. And one of my favorite things, because she's one of my favorite Hollywood personalities, actresses, of course, is Gloria Swanson. And this, film comes out again in 74. Her last big screen performance is this film. She wrote her book in real life, Swanson on Swanson, which was published in 1980. She passes away in 83. One of my prized possessions is I have a first edition of Swanson on Swanson with red foil letters on the cover, because that's what covers do.
That's a thick volume.
The lady had a lot to say about life.
My book, Todd on Todd's going to be about 34 pages.
Well, but hers is like so. I mean, I think the word is out, but her final husband actually wrote this book for her, but it does sound like her. She had massive input, but it's kind of funny because I feel like younger folks sometimes don't get how saucy and truly sexy young Hollywood was. Within the first couple chapters, she talks about like Wallace Beery raping her on their honeymoon, or like actually their wedding night, and basically inducing her to miscarry. You're like, oh, is that chapter 1? Okay. And when she comes back to life, for Zaza, which is one of her great screen portrayals, she was like,
I don't know if sexy is the right word to describe.
No, it's not, but she goes deep into weirdness that you're like,
right.
People think, silent films, everyone was so chaste. No, they weren't. She completely is open about all the husbands, all the things. She talks about how she came back to life. She had like the pneumonia, but she made it to her premiere. But the way she writes about it in this
Right.
elegant, grand, it's like if you ever listen to an Elizabeth Taylor interview, she's incapable of sounding like a normal person, which is why we love her, and she's a goddess.
So back then, everybody was like Anne Heche.
Yeah, I mean, well, I don't know about that.
You know, shouldn't be weirded. I'm just saying we shouldn't have been weirded out by Anne Heche.
No,
like
Swanson is great, and if you really want a crash course in how crazy fun early Hollywood was, Swanson was there. She makes her first screen appearance in 1914 and her last screen appearance in 1974. The lady saw things. But I think it's kind of cool that she's in this and again got to have that final big box office hit for her last.
Yeah, I'm all about Karen Black in this movie. Yeah. And you know, I have my personal history with Karen Black, as does Hillary.
That's right.
So Hillary had fun playing Karen Black in tonight's Anderson Family reenactment.
I cannot wait to see it.
It felt really weird. It's the first time since she's left us that we've pretended to be her. So it was weird.
Well, I'm excited to talk about this movie, and I'm really excited for everybody to meet Ebersol and Hughes. They are fantastic. They have a really amazing, like I said, the Ebersol Hughes Company, very unique creative collaboration. Writers, directors, producers, they have writing credits on so many things in addition to what their directing and producing work is. I mean, you've seen it on HBO, Showtime, IFC, VH1. They also produce live events like the Silver Lake Film Festival, helping other filmmakers out. Their films have premiered at every major film festival you can think of, including like Cannes, Venice, Sundance, South by Southwest, you know, just to name a few. Their feature and documentary work has been honored by numerous awards, including the Spirit Awards, the IDA Awards, the Win Awards, Fashion Film Awards, just among others. They've also gotten a lot of grants because they're so good at writing, you know, their case for like fund us. We really want to tell and bring great stories to life. So the Los Angeles Cultural Affairs, the MacDowell Colony, and the American Film Institute have helped them basically curate and produce their work. They've worked with world-class celebrities, notable personalities. On-screen talent includes, now talk about diversity. This could actually be like a cast in an airport movie, right? You got Alice Cooper, Courtney Love, Dionne Warwick, Cher, Tippi Hedren. I'm super crushing on her granddaughter right now. We're going to have to talk about her at some point.
Tell me more about Dionne Warwick, please.
So more. We're going to get into that. John Waters, Sharon Stone, you know, those people. They've been dubbed the Renaissance Men by Palm Springs Life. Who are we to disagree with Palm Springs Life? Am I right? They've also been tapped as LGBTQ notables in the annual issue of Out 100. Their current focus remains making documentaries about creative pioneers, but they have recently also, and this is super cool, they have formed a pop punk boy band album called the Ebersol Hughes Company Singers. And like I mentioned, they have also both written 2 new books that you can actually find on Amazon and wherever you do find your books. Let's do a little bit of a promo. Todd has written Lunch with Lisbeth, of course, the great Lisbeth Scott, who he was friends with. It started off on a lunch, and they had a wonderful relationship and friendship for, gosh, I think the last part of her life, really. And then you have with P. David Ebersol, his 99 Miles from L.A. I think he's currently working on the sequel to this. Maybe it's a universe novel thing. He'll have to tell us more about it if he's allowed to say. Without further ado, I want to bring up David and Todd and welcome them to the program.
Hello.
Woo! Hey, gents, how are you?
You're done. Now that you did all that, we don't have to do anything.
I am so happy you're here. I've been like, when can I get them on? So.
I think you might be the first. Was Tracy one of the first people to read an early draft of our Mansfield screenplay? Yeah, because before we made the documentary, we tried to sell it to Hollywood. The related, you know, just a little kind of, you know, rom-com about a movie goddess who gets beheaded and was in love with the head of the Church of Satan.
I mean, it's like, why didn't Sandra Bullock jump at that? It's so weird. So
oh, well, we were pitching Wild Oats, right?
That's right, Wild Oats. Plato and also like the Plato's Retreat.
Yeah.
And I still remember it was one of the first like great pitches I ever heard. I was a very young executive at the time. We were all like kind of children's stars, really, over at the Sony lot when I first met you, gents. But yeah, I still think that story would probably work now as a great docuseries. So Very cool. But I'm just so pleased that you're here. As we ask all guests who join, and I'm curious to hear both of your answers on this. We always ask, because there's been some controversy.
Different for everybody. It's different for everybody. It doesn't have to be.
And it goes to the title of the show. A lot of people are like, but you guys talk about really awesome, fun movies that we love, and they're not really.
Oh, yeah. People get mad if the wrong title.
Yeah.
What?
How dare you say that about like Big Trouble in Little China? You're like, it's okay. So for
That shitty movie.
I don't think so. But I mean, it's not like it's perfect. Right? But for each one of you, how would you define a great shitty movie? And by way of that answer, how did you arrive at Airport 75?
Well, it's tough because so many shitty movies are movies that I've come to adore.
Yes.
Namely the camp classics like Mommy Dearest.
Right.
And everyone goes, oh, it's such a piece of garbage. It's Frank Perry, who did so many weird, interesting films. And this is just another one in his oeuvre, right? Mark Robson did Valley of the Dolls and Earthquake. So it's difficult to say because shitty means such a different thing to us.
Right.
Than it does to the general public. But I think in this context, clearly, it's a movie that not everyone can agree upon, but it has its fans.
Gotcha. Okay.
I had trouble with it at first, because Todd likes a different kind of movie than I do. Like he'll go to the B section and search through and find things. And I was like, but to even talk about it, you have to like it, right? Like you can't just say, well, this is bad. Like, the Razzies are no fun if they just give it to a movie that you had no hope for. It's like, it had to be like, oh my God, can you believe that, J-Lo and Ben Affleck thought that was a good idea? Then it becomes fun, right?
That's true for a lot, except Freddie Got Fingered. I think everybody was on the same page about that.
But I mean, it has to be like that. That there are things about it and reasons that you want to be watching it. It has to engage you into it, and then in its own weird way go awry.
And I think its beauty reveals itself upon repeated viewing.
True.
Yes.
Like The Lonely Lady, right? Which we were talking about.
Isadora,
And every time you watch it, you're like, my God, this goes beyond anything anyone could.
And she got a Golden Globe anyway.
Also, I think that there's a really important quality, which is that you really have to think, when did they think that was a good idea? When were they? And they went, this is going to work. What we're going to do is Helen Reddy is going to bring a guitar and sing to her.
Yes.
Bad choices are so important for shooting.
Yeah.
Like when you can see the bad choices that are made consistently throughout the running time of something, then you're like, this is great.
It's good, right? That's what I'm saying.
And that, to me, is also like what's fun about sequels, because I would argue this is actually, I think, one of those rare instances where this sequel is better than the original, even though that one was nominated for Best Picture. I think this one is better, and I feel I love that idea. No one has said that before, which is interesting. It's who thought this was a good idea. Like I've always wanted to be like a fly on the wall when they're like, well, can't get Keanu back for Speed 2. So like, we're going to do Speed 2 with Annie, as if Annie was like Ripley, right? The girl who drove the bus. Right. And then they're like, you know what goes slower than a bus? Love Boat. And you're like, that's Speed 2. And they're like, let's make that film as a big studio picture. And
okay, so see, we could have been on your show had we gotten to make this movie, which is that we pitched
Airport 2000.
Oh my God.
Which was Speed, but in the air.
Oh, wow.
It was Y2K, the maiden voyage of this completely electronic aircraft, New Year's Eve. On board were the Spice Girls, all kinds of current celebrities. The captain was having an affair with Rupert Everett, the steward.
I mean,
and of course, at midnight, everything goes wrong, and the plane just starts going.
Computerized plane.
When did you pitch that? What year?
98.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. So you got ripped off. I'm here to tell you, you've been ripped off.
And the bottom line is like, it's Speed 3. It's Speed in the air that got out.
I get it.
And dismantle the plane.
This is what you just described is Turbulence 3. straight to video, the second straight to video sequel to Turbulence with Ray Liotta. He's obviously not in Turbulence 3.
When was
And everything you just described is exactly that. And it's like there's a concert on a plane.
Actually, you guys, that's right, because Andy can't ride a bus, she can't ride a plane. So having her try to take a vacation with Jason Patric on the Y2K plane?
See?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that would be the first time Jennifer Lopez borrowed one of our ideas.
Yeah.
but not-
Oh,
It's the thing where she's the wedding
the
planner.
wedding.
oh my God.
Who
Those
fall
are
in love.
great.
Did you ever read our script, Tracy, that was about
No, I don't think I would
that?
remember
That
that.
was like went all over Hollywood, and yeah.
Jennifer Love Hewitt pitched it right after we did, and then Jennifer Lopez sold it.
Oh my God, the Jennifers.
I saw Jennifer Love Hewitt in a grocery store one time, and I became instantly concerned about her because I was like, she's so small and fragile.
Yeah.
She should not be out in public. This is dangerous. She was
That's-
so
it's
little.
if she's that
But
small.
those, yeah.
Yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
God. Oh my God.
That
Well,
was her Ghost Whisperer days. That's when I saw her.
Um,
I always wanted a Ghost Whisperer Mentalist crossover just because I thought, who could worse?
Oh my God, that would have been good.
It would have been so silly. It would have been wonderful. So let's get back to Airport 75. Like, guys, as best you can, in case people haven't seen it in a minute, attempt, if you will, what is the summary for this, I would argue, masterpiece of camp?
mm,
Well, it's a typical flight from Dulles, I
Dallas.
guess.
Yeah, beautiful.
To
The airport
LA.
looks beautiful.
Nothing extraordinary about the flight except that Karen Black, the lead stewardess, is madly in love with Charlton Heston, who works for the airline, but they need to have a talk about the future, but it's not going to happen. One complication, there is a young girl who needs a kidney transplant and can't be off the dialysis machine for very long.
And who is that young girl?
Linda Blair, in her
Okay.
first movie role after The Exorcist.
Brings a guitar, but like not for her to play, just so that she has one handy.
And
For
I
her
just
to get
read
nodded,
today,
one should come along.
and they do focus on her beautiful long manicure with
Her very adult female hands.
no
But she's
guitar player could ever possess.
also, I'm pretty sure this is, I know that
Right.
she's supposed to have like a kidney problem, but like the way that they just let her lie across 4 seats and not be buckled up, I'm not sure that's quite to code, but let's go with it.
Well, and this, of course, inspired one of the greatest bits in Airplane.
Airplane.
Yeah.
with
Right.
Jill Whelan. from
I
the-
like growing up, I always thought that Airplane was just spoofing Airport 1975. I thought that's what it was, but apparently it's a remake of Zero Hour with jokes.
Yeah.
And it's multiple airport movies and
Yes.
other old Hollywood films because
Oh yeah,
things are popular.
Jaws.
Because Jaws, it opens with the Jaws.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
The
the plane.
And also
plane ring in the clouds.
there's a big, huge Saturday Night Fever sequence where Julie Haggerty and Robert Hayes meet for the first
With
time.
the Girl Scouts get in a fight.
And when he has like,
Oh, right.
like throws off his jacket and just hits him in the face and then comes out. It's like,
And that
One
guy
of those
gets stabbed
Girl
in the
Scouts-
back. That guy gets stabbed in the back when he's dancing with Julie Haggerty, and he's
Right.
like, ah. And she's like, yeah.
One of those Girl Scouts today I noticed, I swear to God, she's the same stunt woman that was for Diana Scarwood, Mommy Dearest,
oh,
that goes down and they show her white panties.
Wow.
Same legs. It's her.
amazing. John Hillary asked a very good question. Wouldn't they just have flown the kidney to her? You know, you would think. My favorite part is at the end, spoiler alert, when Linda Blair like just slides down and then gets up to get into an ambulance. I'm like, I thought she had a kidney problem. She still have to move. It's
Well,
like,
her mother says, "Darling, please don't move."
I know. And I'm like,
Must
she's like,
the adults are sure. Go ahead.
yeah, just slide down the thing. It's all good. And we should also say, because I think it's pretty cool, but the mom is Sunset Boulevard's Nancy Olson.
Right?
Lovely to see her.
Way,
Is Gloria Swanson.
right?
And Gloria Swanson, there's like a reteam, and she's just like, again, older stars just knew how to age, and look how great she looks. It's
She
just,
does. And she also looks like she could speak jive.
That's right. Like Jimmy Olsen.
Barbara Billingsley.
But you have to think about a movie like this, like where they were just like kind of making this movie on a soundstage, and what, like she came to visit Gloria, and she's like, "Come be in the movie. You'll play the little girl's mother."
Well,
It'll be, like, because how they just kept adding stars. You know?
I love
Helen Reddy's
the entrance that Gloria Swanson makes like a true star.
well,
Right. With the paparazzi.
amazing. She also had no script. She made up all her own dialogue.
Right, because in real life, she was famously a vegetarian. And so her lines about, oh, I just don't like poison food. I don't like it. I'm like, who does? You know, it's like this bizarre.
Also, at one point, they go, the people want to know, who were the two people you didn't mention that were upstarts? Oh, that's easy. Carol Lombard and Grace Moore. We were all rebels. Both those women died in plane accidents.
Oh!
Now,
Yes.
Reddy, her fellow nun, Martha Scott, played Charlton Heston's mother. Not only her, she was Charlton Heston's Moses' mother in the Ten Commandments and Ben-Hur's mother. And there's Large Marge right behind her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. Oh my
But
God.
this is the problem with this movie and trying to tell you the plot, which is that you asked us, and you know what happens? Then it's suddenly like, and then the little girl, and then and then you're talking about Gloria Swanson sitting 2 seats away because you don't care. I mean, a plane hits the other plane in the air, and then they have to land.
And then
the outfits that the stewardesses, like they're dressed like Columbo. Like
I have to say, Edith Head, I think, was nominated for an Oscar for that. But and they matched that beautiful first class purple, and
the purple is real. Like the colors in this film it's so 70s.
It's funny that you brought up that she's not strapped in, because you know, in Disaster 75, which is the Carol Burnett spoof, right?
Yeah.
They make a whole thing about strapping her in. I just watched that, and they were like, they really strapped the girl in. So they
strap her in an airplane for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. But then they accidentally pull her thing out, and she makes this face.
All right.
Yeah, and it's like Julie from the Love. No, it's someone from the Love Boat, isn't it? Who's the?
It is. It's
Yeah.
Vicky.
But it's like everywhere you look, it's a who's who of. Are you kidding me, Myrna Loy? I want this hat. I want
Mr. Roper.
Mr. Roper, Jerry Stiller.
Yeah, and some of these people aren't necessarily that recognizable at this point as they are to our. But this is what, 3 years after the Poseidon Adventure, which was a disaster movie with this superstar cast.
Yeah.
And I feel like this movie is like, well, we've got the airport intellectual property. They probably didn't call it that back then, but they're like, we can make a disaster movie out of that. And we'll get a bunch of actors like and they're like, well, we can afford Karen Black, but we can't afford.
Also, it's kind of lovely because, again, I think this film was made in an inflection point both in our country and in Hollywood, and the changing of the guards. And there's something so cool. It's like I think this came out more recently, but like, you know, Angela Lansbury, when she landed Murder, She Wrote, she made a point of hiring, you know, her friends from the golden era of Hollywood who couldn't qualify for their health benefits. She made sure they came on Murder, She Wrote so that they could get health care because they were older and they needed it. And I love that. And I feel like this movie, it's like how Aaron Spelling did the same thing, right? You know, we have Ida Lupino on Charlie's Angels. I'm like, you should have let her direct the episode. But anyway, you know, but it's like we would do these things to, I think, help out because there was this classy kind of sense of guest stars. And I feel like these films, what I like about them is like it's a touchstone. So we were kind of all kids when they came out, but we know who they are because we saw this then. It's like my mom used to cringe. And I remember, because I, of course, like everybody, I love Superman the movie. And I think I came out, I was like 5 or 6. And I was like, oh, that guy's Jor-El's dad. My mom was like, no. Like when Streetcar Named Desire was re-released, she drove me up to LA so I could see it at the Newark on the big screen. And when Brando walks in, I remember sold out Newark audience. There was this, when he walked on in that t-shirt, and she's like, I don't want to hear Superman's dad anymore. I'm like, correct. I understand. I grew up with Apocalypse Now and Superman, Ma. This is a very different situation.
Right.
Yeah. But
the Gloria Swanson role was originally offered to Greta Garbo.
Oh my God.
Who said, this is so boring. Why would I want to play this? They went to Betty Davis and Irene Dunn.
Oh my God.
before Gloria Swanson accepted it. Now, get this. Originally, the Myrna Loy role was an alcoholic aging actress.
Oh.
And they offered it to Joan Crawford.
Oh, I love this. This is good
And
story.
I think it's because the part was an alcoholic. She probably said, no thanks. A
It's a little too close to
A
home.
little too close to home. She's like, wait, that wasn't Pepsi, Joe? Okay.
I don't want to play myself. I'm an actor.
But
And then
when-
they pursued her for 77. They wanted her for the Olivia de Havilland part.
oh, I love that. Right. Is it like Joseph Cotton and she are kind of hanging out together, I think?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean,
Anyway,
so
Airport 75 film noir legend Dana Andrews.
Nina Andrews.
Line.
Well, this is okay. So we should get to that because, like, again, one of the other things I like about this movie, in addition to there's like lip service paid to the women's movement, which is actually happening in real time, and they're like, "Hey, girls," blah blah blah. I mean, like, and Eric Estrada, the cliched Latin lover, sexist pig. You're like, dude, turn that down. But like, it dates badly. But
But also, he's like, at the same time, everyone's terribly racist towards Eric Estrada's character.
totally. But he's also
They're
like,
all assholes to him.
they're all jerks, right?
It's unbelievable.
But it's like, so you have these men who are all various degrees to toxic, but there's also this, well, of course, let's look really closely here. Okay. So we've got, Moses with like the current toupee dating way
Oh my
too-
God, that wig on Heston is so bad. It's so distractingly bad.
But always with this guy. But then it's like, this is Karen Black. And she's like, you guys alluded to her. She's like, I really want to talk to you. Like, you get the bench. She's like, either marry my ass or I'm out of here. It's like the real talk. He's like, oh, honey, I only have half an hour. Are you on that kick again? Are you on that kick again? I'm like, she's like, I've been on this kick for 6 years. And you're like, oh my God. It's just like, it's so like, are you kidding me? So then we go to our friend, right? Dana Andrews. And you're like, oh, he's like a businessman. I have to pilot my little plane into kind of like, it's like rain is coming down. There's no
And
wind.
married to Beverly Garland, so we get one extra star that really has nothing to do with the movie.
But like, she's also a lot younger. It's like, guys, I get it, but I feel like this shot is so like, this is how you light your film school projects. They're like, look at the lamps, look at the light sources. I mean, it's really of its era, but you're like, yeah, they're married. I buy that.
Love.
But
Well,
it's like,
I mean, Charlton Heston and
Park.
Karen Black, it's just how the math works in Airport
Well,
1975.
I mean, I'm in for couples that make no sense. I mean, Taya Leone and William H. Macy in Jurassic Park 3. I didn't know that I believe that either, but like it happens. But this movie is particularly age difference. And
Why don't you believe it? You don't think that Taya Leone could be part of a scandal to get her children admitted to a college?
I don't think
You
Taya
don't see
would.
William H. Macy?
I'm a fan. I've worked with her. I think she's a great lady. I don't think she'd do that. I also think that she was so sporty. I'm like, you could take out the Raptors. William H. Macy, I think he's the red shirt from Star Trek. I don't think he's going to survive the Raptors or the spitter. I don't think that's going to be a thing. But it's a fan theory. So we introduce these people. Let's talk a little bit about Sid Caesar. Is he the most grating character in the film? Discuss.
Sid Caesar's partner is so strange because he just keeps kind of. It's what they spoof, I think, in an Airplane when he just keeps moving around and annoying people.
Yeah.
He moves around and like everybody he sits next to is kind of like.
Well, that lady is hassling about needlepoint, right? And the final joke, like, oh, with what you're doing, you'll have a rug by the time we land. And she's just like, what?
And I love that even the person that is like, what are you saying to me? Like, it's just like,
He's trying to do jokes from his old show.
I know.
You hire Sid Caesar to make jokes, and that's what he was trying to do, but I don't think he was really given the right circumstance and probably not the right script for his brand of comedy.
No, and I just love the looks that like
the whole thing, like, and he's passed out and didn't even know it happened, right?
absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
And
so
Myrna
Todd
Loy,
did that once. Todd and I one time went out all night, got on a plane, passed out. I think we had even taken sleeping pills because we were just so like, headaches and blah, blah, blah. And we slept. I guess the plane went up in the air and some terrible thing happened and landed. And people, when we were getting off, were like, wasn't that frightening? And we're like, what? We sat on the tarmac for 2 hours. They're like, oh no, Oh no, that's not what happened at all. Oh no, that was me that had that happen to. The one that you and I did was the one where we were flying.
We got home at midnight. We're like, how did it get so late?
Right. Yeah. Anyway, airplane stories.
It's so good. And then suddenly the sick girl needs to be sung to.
Of
So we have
course.
this scene, which is ridiculous, but fun, and just done with such earnestness that I think really screams 1974. You
The
know,
song is
And that's
so-
why it works so great for a bit in Airplane, because
Yeah.
of the earnestness of it. And if you just redo the earnestness with jokes, it's comedy gold. It's
the
amazing.
song is like about being your own best friend, right? And it's so bad that it doesn't even get nominated for an Academy Award for Best Song. No, they don't even have, like, it's an original song by Helen Reddy. She
Yeah.
ends with the only like serious nomination from the whole movie. She gets a Golden Globe nomination, the Pia Zadora Award.
Best newcomer.
Best newcomer. She gets a nomination.
oh my God.
And she loses to someone from the Towering Inferno.
We may never love like this again from the Towering Inferno, which I think is such an awkward song title because you're in flames, but
And Maureen McGovern plays the stewardess in Airplane.
that's right. And there was a morning after.
And someone was saying on the screen that like Earthquake, Towering Inferno, and this were in the box office, I think, all at the same time.
Yeah.
Right? Wow.
And they were called Shaken.
Shake and Bake. Oh wow. Okay.
That's
Oh
awesome.
no, Towering Inferno and Earthquake were in the theater, but not this.
That's some good.
Charlton Heston actually started filming Airport 75 the day after he finished Earthquake. It was that quick.
Really?
Oh, wow.
Wow. And again, another movie where he's with, I think in that case, like child Genevieve Bujold, who's also maybe 30 years younger. It's like, okay, Chuck, it's like, I remember even when he was doing The Awakening, he's like, Susanna York is a little more age appropriate, but not really. But I was like, dude, it's time to put the shirt on, like in that movie. You're just like, it's just a little.
Or as David Gardner called her, that Marshall bitch.
Oh my God. I love everybody's up on the trivia. Oh my God. Disaster movies are
It's really
I
good.
know, right, Sean? These guys are the real deal. I just think it's so much fun. But I also appreciate they take time to have these little side characters that don't really drive anything, but like moments like
Marge! Sorry, involuntary reaction.
doing her nails.
Toto.
Toto. It's like Latter-day Dorothy Gale on an airplane. It's just
22
little
of the
crazy.
screen's most like what they call it's 22 of the screen's most legendary stars or something like that, right? And I
Yeah.
tried to find, I've only found 17 that I would say like kind of qualified. But Toto, now I see that they had Toto. Yeah,
No, it's Toto.
Toto's a big deal.
he counts. I thought he counted. I counted him myself.
They do try to set up time. And again, this is, it's 1974. Pacing is different. Much like Alien, we don't have a facehugger until 45 minutes in here. We have, apparently sad Dana Andrews, we barely knew ye, having a heart attack as he is trying to, pilot his, I guess it's not raining anymore, but his plane into the storm. And they wind up colliding kind of on the nose cone of the larger Boeing. Boeing.
Pilot gets sucked right out.
Yeah. It's
If they had made this in the 1990s, they would have had Jimmy Buffett play that small plane pilot.
oh my God, totally.
Wasting away.
Yeah. Or now we can have Harrison Ford since he just crashed his planes.
Oh yeah. Love me a
true.
little-
This is interesting. This is not the first film where Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. and Dana Andrews are pilots in a mid-air collision.
It's not.
No, there's another film where that happens. And the actual smaller plane they used was put out of commission in a mid-air collision
In real life?
in real life.
Whoa.
And the Columbia liner became a UPS freighter until like the 90s.
Yeah.
Oh my
The
God.
one that Tom Hanks flew in Castaway?
Maybe.
That was FedEx. Sorry.
Well, that's
I also loved always in the Mad Magazine parody of this. The one joke I always remember, they're like, why are we flying Columbia Airlines? Ads, the way at the studio is like going to blame this bomb on a different studio. Right? Blame this bomb on another studio.
I was just going to say, it's kind of funny that Universal's like, yeah, the problem kids are the Columbia people. You're like, what? It's like, okay. No,
And it's clearly an American Airlines, right? It's got the same colors and stripes.
it kind of does. So
And all airlines are the same now. We all know it was all bullshit. They're all garbage.
But I also feel like part of what you have to suspend disbelief, because usually in action movies, right? It's like someone fires like a bullet hole and you get sucked out of it, or like you decompressurize or whatever. There's an attempt with one line of dialogue. Oh no, we're under X number of feet, so it's okay. You don't need a mask, and you're like, I don't know that.
Like they never fall down at any point in the entire film.
Right, but like there's half the movie, like the first and second act, you have Karen Black not like seatbelted in with this huge thing that is going to suck somebody else up.
That cockpit, right? And then she's just like, pushing buttons.
Also, then
airplane oxygen masks are a myth. Like the COVID vaccine. They don't help and they're unnecessary.
They don't come down.
Yes.
But then later she picks up that coffee cup off the floor, right? It's like,
yeah.
The coffee she served the captain earlier.
Right.
Lisa's right. Petroni, who is the great George Kennedy anchors, he's the only character that shows up in all 4 films. If anyone can figure out his character's career trajectory, like in the first
it's amazing. He goes
he goes from mechanic to I'm like an executive to
then he's a pilot, and then
he's like, I mean, the whole thing makes no sense. But like, I love that they're like Petroni's here, and I'm like,
as if anyone remembers, right? Any audience member, like, oh, Petroni, he was.
Yeah, was there anyone who went to the sequels because they wanted to see George Kennedy again?
Oh,
I don't mean to be mean about George Kennedy. I love George Kennedy. The Uninvited is one of my favorite movies of all time. With the orange cat,
great jacket.
Earthquake again.
Yeah, he's great.
You're right, Jeff.
And he's sort of an anchor for the franchise for sure. But it's just funny that a character actor would be the guy. And then he wound up being in Naked Gun, but not Airplane. I don't know.
It's weird. None of it makes any sense. But I love, so the cockpit comes up, someone gets sucked out. Estrada just gets bloodied. We never see where they move the body, but we assume they do. And then, of course, Ephraim becomes blind, which is a problem for your pilot. But, once again, Karen Black is there to help out. And then she steps up. She understands the assignment. She's the lead stewardess, flight attendant, if you will. And of course, the setup is that, she's kind of having a fight with Charlton Heston. He's going to come back into play later because everybody is somehow related, as Petroni's wife and kid are also on the plane. So there's personal stakes that we've tied these characters on the ground. The characters on the plane is only a studio note can do. And we just go with it as a reality thing. And so here we are. And then I love this moment where she's like, I'm going to do this. I can do this. And then she like has this Charlie's Angels moment. Again, the great colors. She's like, girls, this is what's happening. I need to tell everybody it's fine, even though we had a clear collision we could hear, and there's no cockpit, and no one can fly the plane. But she's totally delivering it, which begs the question, you guys, she could probably figure out how to do this and avoid, like, you got to get Charlton in there. She can't,
Well, also when she starts, because one of the things that you talked about with this is how much mansplaining there is. But when she starts and he says this and that, and she's like, yes, I know where that is. And yes, that button, I know exactly what that is. And I'm like, she knows the plane. Yeah. Karen Black knows the plane. She's going to save us.
Yes. Trust her. But we don't.
She's a real airline employee. She might be a flight attendant, back then called a stewardess, but she knows the goddamn plane. She's researched her job environment.
But also, we should point out, this is again, I think men writing, directing, producing, but there's literally a close-up insert shot where it says altimeter, speed. And she's like, I know that. Of course you do, because you can read. But they're like, I don't know if Karen can handle this. I don't know if Karen can see the odometer. I don't know if she can see
wash, spin, rinse.
She's a little cross-eyed.
She's like, where's the softener?
She's a little cross-eyed. It's hard for her to read.
I know.
She is a little cross-eyed.
It's part of her charm. But my favorite is like Heston. I've always thought of Charlton Heston as a total ham bone. Rarely do I find him to be an engaging actor. He's Charlton Heston in everything. He's made great movies, but I don't think he's the nuanced actor. But like, he is like, I think, no energy in this movie and phoning it in and super not one of his best moments. But like, even this is him like, I just woke up. And he's got.
I mean, Tracy, to be
Oh,
fair,
right.
while he was making this movie, he was more focused on owning guns. So
Probably.
his mind was elsewhere.
But what's crazy about Charlton Heston, not to go off on a tangent, but he's interesting because it's like he was there for civil rights. He was marching with King, and then he completely comes over into the Reagan era in a different way. So he deserves his own show. But the turtleneck power in this movie, I mean, and then we go back to like the colors. It's just so great. And I love when the shit goes down, there's an impact, and who's cooler than everybody? Myrna Loy.
Mhm.
I thought that guy was somebody that was sitting next to. I looked him up, but
I loved him. I thought
had a
like
great
one
face.
of the greatest performances in this film is this guy. He often has glasses on, and is just looking chagrined and confused the whole movie.
Yeah.
And every time they cut to him, I would laugh out loud. And he has very little dialogue. He's just reacting to shit.
I
It's
thought he was going
great.
to finally take the Boilermaker. So like, there's a
Right.
moment when it's like the plane's going to go down. It seems like, and she's like, "Okay, Boilermaker now."
Yeah.
And they're like, no.
well, she did manage to corrupt the other alcoholic, Sid Caesar. Oh, I don't drink. What does it matter? You're right.
Doesn't matter now. Yeah, I know, right, Jeff? But what I also love about the great Myrna Loy, just the way she plays this, because like her character doesn't do anything but just get drunk, right? That's the running joke. Because back then before AA, I guess we did that a lot in movies. Like,
well, and also that's just a plane. Like to this day, there'll
Right.
be someone really drunk on your flight.
Totally.
That will happen.
But
Maybe
what's
it'll be you. I don't know.
in the continuation of the mansplaining that is central to the narrative drive of said film, it's like she shows up into a bar, bumps into like, Mr. Roper, basically, oh, he'll buy me a drink. It's like so he introduced her this way. So she always orders a bourbon and then a beer. And then you have the men go, do you know that's called a Boilermaker? She's like, oh. And then she's on the plane and like, did you know that's called a Boilermaker? Girlfriend is ordering her own drinks. She knows what she's ordering. But there's this, hey girl, do you know what you just ordered? I'm like, oh my God.
It's great.
It's a little over the top. She's
Also,
like,
Deeply offensive.
one of that trio of drunks at that one point, he's got to get up and talk to the captain. And then he does sit down and he goes and he's like, the gas is leaking. And they're like, we know. But like, he can't trust that information with the stewardess,
you
right?
can't. It's so that
He's got to tell him.
you totally. And then so Heston's like, wait a second, my main squeeze is like now in control of the plane. And so then you have these two. I mean, this is my favorite. Like all of a sudden you've got Aviator Heston, right? Petroni is just there. They're like, we're gonna get to you. And so Karen's trying to describe what she's seeing. And one of my favorite things about this movie is if you pay attention and track like the mountains that are snow-capped in this film, she's either right up against them or they're in the distance or they're in the path. Like the mountains never track with where we're like, she's going to hit them. And I'm like, not close. And they're like, she's really close. They're like, it's fine. I'm like, it's not. She's right on top of the rear projection. So
They're
it's
constantly saying she's going to hit mountains.
yeah,
That's
because like, she can't
mostly
just
what George Kennedy does in this movie is say she's going to hit a mountain.
she's going to hit him out. But like George
Lois
Kennedy's
Swanson
there
has one,
to
too.
speak for like the lowest common denominator. Oh no, I don't know if he can land the plane. I don't know if he can stop the plane. I don't know what's happening. And you're like, we can see what's happening. It's okay, But it's like he's there for like, let me tell people expositionally what you're seeing as it's happening.
But once again, Miss Karen Black is the one who says, "I'm not going to clear the mountain."
Right? She calls it.
He sees it, and she says, "We're not going to clear the mountain." And but I can't go up too high because then we're going to. They were talking about how
Stalling
altitude
out.
we might
Yeah.
stall out. Blah blah. I mean, it's like the girl has got it going on. She knows what's happening.
She saves them.
She does. She keeps
They
it.
applaud for her when
And
she
it's-
comes out. They applaud for her. The whole plane knows she's saved.
They do, and then she has a bullhorn out of nowhere, like as you would on a. It's fantastic. But like I just love these shots, and then she's trying to communicate, like to your point, David, like she's saying everything she needs to say, and then Hambone over here is like, oh my God, this woman is in control. And then it's so good. It's just so
They
good.
keep calling her honey too, which I really
Honey, yeah,
Yes,
honey.
I do. I have a scene that exemplifies that very thing.
And Petroni, these guys have a lot of feelings in this plane, and Karen's doing a great job, and these guys are all screaming.
Yes. I do have a scene, a reenactment, Anderson family reenactment that exemplifies the honey and the talking to Karen Black, not from a plane, but from, the hangar or wherever they are. Here it is.
Now, read me the altimeter.
8,000 feet. 8.
Read it again, honey. Read it as the numbers change.
7,978.
She's got to get that altitude back. She's only got 1,500 feet to play with.
Keep turning the way you are, honey. But at the same time, ease the wheel back. Until you see the little plane lift up a bit. Honey, have you done that?
Yes, I think so.
What's your airspeed?
180. 188. 188. Do you read me?
I read you fine, honey. Now what's your heading? Your compass heading.
240. 240.
There's a 13,000-foot mountain right in front of her.
Honey?
Sorry, I couldn't keep it together. It's very hard to be that condescending.
It took me right back.
But that's what's so funny about Heston in this movie is he's so constantly condescending to Karen Black. And she's the one fucking doing everything. She's doing it.
Also, remember when he tears into her? He's like, I can't do it. What does he say? Like,
yes, you can.
Oh, here's another thing. Get this. So Gloria Swanson's secretary?
Yeah.
Who she doesn't her. She is the girl from Planet of the Apes.
The one that Heston likes because she doesn't speak.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God!
She changed her professional name to Augusta Summerland for this film.
Oh,
But her name is something else.
that is some good trivia. I did not recognize her. That is hilarious.
I thought I was a big deal because I saw Large Marge. I did not catch it.
That is amazing. I love that.
You're a big deal because you did that reenactment.
I know. Okay, the poster's the best. Lena Hare, amazing. Oh, and the great Hillary Anderson, Todd's wife, playing Nancy.
Whoever,
Character of Nancy.
That's Hillary Anderson, professional school teacher.
So good. Yeah.
One of the good things about the poster too, and someone noticed this, I think, when you posted it, Tracy, is that they're like promoting the airplane. It says 747 like right on the front of it. Right? Like they're like, this is a 747. And they keep talking about it during the flight too, that they're like telling you it's a good plane.
Yeah.
It's a Boeing plane, which back then wasn't bad.
Now
we watch it and we're like, yeah, of course it's a fucking Boeing.
I had the same experience watching it after recent news where I was like, Boeing, like today, like the obvious airport thing is after the whistleblowers, like what is it, 2 or 3 now who had strange deaths, like they were part of the Warren Commission. And the Boeing's like, nothing to see here. And there's all kinds of stuff going on.
And the ceiling just falls out on in the cockpit, right?
What am I wish I had a still of it, but I couldn't get it without it blurring. But it's like when the thing falls down and hits Karen Black, and she's like, "Oh wow!" And the first guy comes in, she goes, and she turns into She-Hulk and just takes care of it. And you're like, "That's amazing what she just did." Meanwhile, Heston's like, "Hurry up, Nancy!" I'm like, "She's going through." It's so much fun. But yeah, so you've got like all this stuff going on, and it's like, so we've got a problem. Who's going to solve it? Petroni tries to get in there. They're trying to work the problem. And then I guess the great decision was we're going to have this crazy stunt. There's a helicopter. We're going to make it up that it can go as fast as 747.
Mhm.
And we're going to get
The bullet is going to come down midair.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's like this kind of shenanigans. Like what could possibly go wrong? And I love that back in the day they're like, well, we'll just use a plane that doesn't actually have too much of a hole in it. No one will know. It's just kind of like it's like it's a normal plane. But you've got our team that's like, let's do this. We can totally get somebody in there. There's so much earnestness that I love this movie. It's so
that scene, by the way, that stunt, between the two planes was totally ripped off by Cliffhanger, Rennie Harlin's Cliffhanger.
That's true.
They have the cases of money and then the people, and it goes south.
See, and I would expect everything in a Rennie Harlin film to be original.
Really? So you must have been really confused when you saw The Strangers the other day.
Oh my God, Jeff, you were right. The Air Force pilot is in effect. That's a good call. We will get to that.
You'll learn about that later. Don't worry about it.
I bought my first used car in LA from him.
Did you really?
Yes,
Rennie
and I
Harlin.
had a born innocent, born American bumper sticker on it.
No.
Called like 2 months later, like, hey, there's a personal effect in there. I really got to get back. And we're like, what is it? And it was a license plate holder that said, I'm the one your mother warned you about.
And he wanted it back.
He wanted it back.
Okay, that's like the best thing ever.
Beautiful car.
Why would you want that?
And by the way, you could probably get that for $10 online or something. Like what?
I just want to own what a piece of shit I am. I want to own it.
Hollywood Boulevard.
Oh my God, I love this so hard. So the first guy who's the expert dies, so we can set up Moses being our savior again. And so like Chuck can do it. So we have this great, sequence where he's wearing like this parka. And I think this is just an iconic shot. Again, celebrating our cross-eyed.
So good.
So
It is pretty scary though when that first guy's almost there and then that thing just hooks on there and unlatches.
Oh my God, it was really effective. It was.
I know I've talked about this on this show before, but looking at these photos of Karen Black and her sort of lazy eye, cross-eye thing, and Tracy knows this, you guys don't, but I was at a party and she was supposed to be singing with her band, but her band like got waylaid and couldn't make the party, and I ran into her and I said to her, the whole reason I'm here is I thought I was going to get to hear you sing. And I was just joking because it was a fundraiser for like something else. And she said, oh, okay. And she just started singing a cappella, one of her songs, to me. And it was like we were this close together. She was trying to control my mind, Scientology and all that. She's trying to, but like the cross-eyed thing, I was like, the whole time, that's what I didn't know where to look because I wanted her to know how much I appreciated it. I was like starstruck and freaking out because she was singing right in my face, but I also was like, I don't know where to look.
It's also how you win all staring contests with kids. You stare right here. Because you're looking at neither eye and you stare right in the middle and it helps you win all staring contests with children too.
Okay, learning.
That's a good, because I've lost a lot of money in staring contests recently.
It's a helpful show. I know it's education.
Oh, this is good. We like to educate.
I'm finally gonna get to turn my shit around. Finally.
I know. I wish I had like the rainbow with the star, like the more you know. My favorite shitty movie. Films save lives, y'all. Pay attention. So Moses comes in with with his thing, and of course she's like standing by her man because 1974. One of my other favorite things that I love about this film, because they had a bigger budget than the first film, although this film didn't do as well as the first movie, but you had dirty opticals. They have stuff on the camera.
Oh, lots of helicopter shadows too.
Yeah, but this thing here, if you can kind of see it, it's like it's dirt, it's fuzz. It's like you just want to go but they couldn't do that, and optically they couldn't remove it. But throughout the movie, when you look at the establishing shots, again, this is where the mountain does this, even though she's supposed to be closer to it. You see all kinds of dirt on the lens.
Yes.
Again,
Isn't that why you're supposed to check the gate? I get the sense they did
yes.
a lot.
But I think it was mounted outside a plane, and they could go up once, and they got what they
Right,
got.
and they're like, there's nobody out there to check the gate.
There's
We
nobody,
have
and they didn't have a proper,
Yeah.
casing, which I would argue Wings did win the Oscar for best first movie in the 20s. So then they didn't have that problem in the 20s. This one with the big budget in the 70s, we'll see.
It cost them $30,000 a day to rent it from American, and they had it 2 days.
There you go.
They filmed it landing in Salt Lake City and taking off, got their aerial shots, and that was it.
And that they couldn't pick a frame without the dirt on the lens it's one of the highlights of the camptastic quality of this movie, because I actually love it.
They didn't have a take without dirt on the lens.
Oh my
And
God.
they didn't have the ability to fix it with computers that we do now. I mean,
Right. But I like it. I think it feels like authentic. And again, films they're made in the time in which they're made, and it's okay to like judge them by our modern eyes. But like context is everything, and I think it's what makes it so delightful. You see these people, some of them like Gloria in her last movie, others that we haven't seen for a minute, and they all get to have moments, like fun character beats that I feel like sometimes our movies.
Would film nerds be talking about this film now? What is this? 50 plus, almost 50 years later. Well, 50 years because it's 74, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So 50 years later, if there was not schmutz on the lens,
Yeah.
and schmutz in the acting, and schmutz in the storytelling.
I also love too, like you guys mentioned before, that Linda Blair was sort of like down on this, and now I feel like Linda Blair's career after The Exorcist was mostly okay. Vice Squad. Oh God, is that it? Is that all you guys can find for me, you assholes?
Seriously. Well, don't forget, was it Hell Night? That was pretty fun.
Hell Night was good, but it's very low budge
Very.
and exploitative.
Lisa has a question for Todd. Out of all the shitty movies, why is Airport 75 your Instagram handle, Todd? I must admit, it was the reason I followed you.
Oh,
well, it's got sentimental value to me. I went to stay with my grandparents in Salt Lake City the summer of 1975.
No way.
And I remember my grandfather telling me, they just finished a movie here called Airport 75. And I had known about it already because we had gone to Hollywood in December for something, and it was playing at the Cinerama Dome.
Oh.
And I'd never wanted to see a movie so badly in my life. And I bought a magazine at the supermarket. I still have it that, went through the making and behind the scenes. But back then, movies were platformed. So by the time I got to Salt Lake, it was no longer playing, and it never came to Claremont while I was there. So it's one of those movies I had the record. I had an insert, but I never saw it till home video.
Oh my God. I love that. I remember I saw Airplane first in the theaters with my folks, and I thought it was funny because it is. And I remember Mom rented, she was like, you have to see what they're spoofing. And she didn't go to Airport. She went to Airport 75. That was the one we rented, I think a day or two after we'd seen Airplane. And I was one of the first times where I started putting together references and film and what they were doing. And I just thought, oh my God, I remember being like a little kid going, I'm in on the joke. And I love both films so much, and I feel like
another movie that was around the same time that did that for me was Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid. When see it, and then we were like, oh my God, but they're spoofing something that I haven't seen, but I know it's that idea, right? And then
did you go back? I mean, did you wind up after you saw that? Because I know I did. Back when that came out on VHS in the 80s, I was like, I don't know what. I love Steve Martin, but I don't know what he's talking about with this Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid. There were a lot of jokes that still worked anyway, but I really wanted to see what he was talking about. So I wound up dipping into noir films, old noir films, because of that movie.
Right.
Yeah.
Jimmy brings up a good point. The 70s were big on putting year in titles. Remember Match Game 73 through 79.
Yeah.
That's another thing. I loved Airport 1975 because it reminded me of Gold Diggers of 1933.
33.
Like, it's so crazy that movies had. And then I made a little film called Moats and Boners of 1985.
I love it. Oh, John, your mom and little gay boy, and I was mortified by the Modern Sperm magazine.
Oh, that. Yes, we just saw that.
That's so funny.
That's amazing, John. That's so cool. Lisa's, no way I saw in the theaters all the disaster movies. I guess I'm older than all of you. Wiser and more experienced.
Lisa. This year. So we saw them. They were.
But like
They were in the movie
Earthquake,
theaters.
Airport 75 did not come to Claremont, Pomona. I don't know
I
why.
lived in Hollywood. I saw it all in Hollywood
Yeah.
Boulevard.
Oh,
Hmm.
jealous.
Hmm.
So, long story short, Heston gets in because he has to. You know,
Oh, the plot. I forgot. We're still on the plot. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, he's the thing. So it's like Petroni's there watching the plane come in, and then he realizes, oh my God, because he needs to be the narrator for the audience. I don't know if he can stop it because Chuck Heston's like, I don't know, baby, if we can stop this. You know, it's like, so you're like, okay, now the people on the ground somehow clairvoyantly know that he can't use the brakes. And my favorite way that they end this movie, like the last thing the plane to stop, it hits this little shack
Right, with nothing in it but explosives.
that's empty, and then you can see the explosions. Like I actually, it's like, oh, there's a sparkler in this shack, and it stops the 747, and I just think it's delightful. But then they all get off. Linda Blair apparently doesn't have a kidney problem anymore, but she slides off. But then we have exposition. Petroni, hey, ambulance is there. Get in there, mom. The kidney's ready for her. And you're like, wow, okay, so no problem. She's already sliding on her back. I feel well for her chances.
Also, for all the gas leaking out of that,
Yeah.
the wing, and they evacuate everyone. But then there's a tender moment where Karen and Charlton are just like, oh, well, now we'll have that talk.
It's really good. It is good.
Gloria Swanson tries to take her book because she's taking out the jewels and wants to get
Why
you.
would
right.
they take it?
Like, give her book. She could have slid down with the book. But I love that
A
even
broken kidney can slide down the thing so you can grab her case.
exactly. And then Myrna Loy looks like she has an unfortunate comb over happening boyfriend. It's all gonna have. It's gonna work out for everybody who survived. It's really
Yeah.
sweet. And more
One
importantly,
guy.
he gets to
That's
be
the
with
one
his
guy.
kid and his wife. And then we've got the Heston and Karen Black. I guess they're going to have that talk after all. But it was kind of funny because going back to Speed, which clearly took its cues from 70s disaster films, but streamlined it, for the 90s. But I love the part where in Speed where there's a runner joke where Keanu's like, yeah, I hear people who meet under extreme circumstances like have sexual tension in the bed. It's like his way of flirting with her as the bus could explode at any moment. It's like, that's a good line. And so then she repeats it back to him, and you're like, oh my God, people who meet in high. And then I literally felt like this whole Airport 75 is like how Charlton Heston and Karen Black, he's going to ask her to marry him because they've survived the situation. I
Yes,
feel like
right.
Speed was winking a little bit, maybe.
I just saw a Speed poster from another country, and I think it was the Netherlands, but I'm not sure. But what the translation of Speed was fart.
Oh,
So it's the Speed poster, but it says fart instead of speed. And I was like, that's the greatest thing I maybe have ever seen.
Are we
I
sure
think
that wasn't a
it's
review?
hilarious. Yeah, I just saw it. I didn't have time to
I
grab
was
it.
working with a producer when we were in the 90s, all trying to make independent films. And he was working on Speed 2. And so in the middle of the night, we went into the office and we took all the short ends because they were going to throw them out.
Yes.
And he said, I work here, you'll come visit me. You'll load up at a pickup truck. You'll load up your pickup truck with all the short ends, but we have to do something because if we turn in Speed 2 short ends, they're going to know it came from the office. So we took it back to our office and we wrote Speed Zone. We turned the 2 into Speed Zone.
Oh my God.
And then we got $10,000
$10,000
towards our
That's
film.
amazing. But also, when are you guys going to make Speed Zone? Because I would like to see Speed Zone.
Speed Zone. Yeah. Mhm.
Oh my gosh.
I was telling anyway.
9-year-old Lisa thinking the mustard guy who slid with Linda was hot. But back, I think the word was cute. I think you're right. I think it's right.
That's fair, Lisa.
That's amazing. I mean, this movie is so much fun. There are so many amazing lines, and I feel like the lip service to feminism as they're mansplaining, as the women are really comporting themselves very well. The expert guy gets sucked out. It's there's so much goodness, and
Also, Mr. Roper does make the weirdest joke. I don't even understand it. He says something about, yeah, I had a girlfriend. She was half French and half Chinese. I came home and she was eating the laundry.
and you're like, what? No, it's like my favorite, like when Gloria Swanson was doing her, like, oh, the first time I was on a plane, it was, like, guess who the pilot was? The pilot was Cecil B. DeMille. We were on a nonstop flight from Hollywood to Pasadena. I'm like, that's not a thing. It never was. And that's 10 minutes. That's not even like a car, 10 minutes. Like, back then.
Okay, so my feminist reading of the film.
Oh my God. I just love her so much. Like, she just, her voice, I was watching, like, Sunset Boulevard again, and because I just can't get enough of that movie. And just wait, her performance in that film is for the age. Like, it's such a bummer that and All About Eve came out the same year, because I think it's late. And then, Judy Holliday got in for Born Yesterday, where you're like, there's a reason Melanie Griffith remade it, but it's a thing. When you look at, like, Gloria Swanson, she's like, you there, why are you so late? And just, like, her vocal stuff with, like, she's from the silent era, and here she is owning William Holden, and I just, like, she's such a wonder. And I love that. And I think, Todd, you probably know this too, right? Like, she was not the first choice. I think they offered it to Mae West to be Gloria Swanson too, the character, Norma character. And thank God Swanson had that, because I feel like it keeps her alive in amber forevermore. Like, I think some of us know, God help us, Alec Guinness, because he's Obi-Wan. And then you go back and see Bridge on the River Kwai and Great Expectations and all the great work. But for a generation, he's Obi-Wan, and they might not know him without it. And I feel like with Swanson, Sunset Boulevard gets to be that for her. And
for me, he was, I don't know what you're talking about with Obi-Wan, but for me, he was that creepy guy in Mute Witness.
Oh, dude.
No one remembers that movie.
No, well, it's like people who are like, oh my God, I love, like, Silent Night, Deadly Night 4, Mickey Rooney. Who's that guy? And it's like, that's not his, that's not what he wants to be known for.
People, they don't say that. You made that up. I don't believe you. Here's my question.
My feminist reading of Airport 75.
Okay, misreading.
Is that it's a new airplane, right? This is the modern world, the 747. This is why they tell us so often that this plane could fly itself. It's the modern world. There's all this kind of sexual politics from the old days still going on.
Yes.
Now Karen Black flies the plane. She does know how to do it. She saves the day. And therefore, they have come to a place where she and Heston can be together in the modern world.
I like that read very much. I like that read. That's a romantic read.
That's why
ultimately met his match.
It belongs to a feminist canon.
By the way, I like that read, and especially given that Gloria Swanson's I just learned from Todd, her assistant was the girl who didn't talk in Planet of the Apes and still doesn't talk in this film. So it's nice to know about her.
We're feeling those moments.
Well played, sir.
We got to get to our ending segments, but I want to wrap up our Airport 75 discussion with this question, which I like to ask. So you guys are talking to someone who's never seen Airport 1975 now. Why should they watch it? Pitch it. Tell them why.
Well, it's simply one of the most important pictures in the history of Hollywood. It's the, you got the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, all on one plane.
That's true. It's actually
collision. Well,
I agree. That's a great pitch.
That is true. Oh my God!
And I would say, I just gave you the whole feminist.
I like that.
The reason that this movie exists and carries forward today is that it's important for women to see the line of when everything changed, and it's because Karen Black flew the plane.
Oh my God! You know what?
The first 45 minutes go by like that.
Because the dialogue is amazing. Like I have to say, I mean, by amazing, questionable, but fun and delicious, and in a campy, great way.
I don't know who the football players are, but I buy it. They're real.
Like, did Rosie Greer do that? You're like, wow, we're doing that. But what I love about, I want a T-shirt with this image that basically says because Karen Black. I just, I think that I do that, and then on the back it'd say because cocaine, which is our theme for the show. Half the 70s and 80s movies like because cocaine. Like,
I think this one might have been lewds. I don't know. They had good lewds back then.
You guys, we did Maximum Overdrive recently, and we're like, the whole movie is cocaine. Like even Stephen King was like, I was so high on coke, I don't remember directing the picture. And you're like, amazing. He's like said this out loud. It's like,
didn't they mention Quaaludes in 75?
They do. Yeah.
Yeah, I've always, as a Gen Xer, I've always heard about Quaaludes from baby boomers and stuff, and it sounds great. But then I say, "Can you get me some?" And they're like, "They don't exist anymore. They don't exist. Whatever they were was magic, and you can't have it anymore."
No, that's how I feel about Stereoscope and Technicolor. I'm afraid.
Nova.
Or Feel-O-Rama or Sensorama.
Smell-O-Rama. William Castle. Let's go.
Tracy, how would you, if you were talking to someone in this modern day, maybe a young person, why, like if they said, why should I watch Airport 1975? What would you tell them?
I would say Once Upon a Time, that now we're over in spectacle, it's big budget.
Hi, Pliskin.
Oh no, that's
their dog.
I would say that you like spectacle and special effects now, but Once Upon a Time, a year before Jaws comes out, this is kind of it's the beginning. Well, I mean, Poseidon Adventure really starting it, but the disaster movie spectacle film that got everybody. What we like to call 4 quadrants now. Male, female, under 30, over 30, whatever. Like. This was a film that everybody saw, everybody liked. I think this was the 7th highest grossing film of the year of 1974. It was kind of the Marvel of its time, except I would argue on DC and not Marvel because they're easier, right? No characters in DC. This one, no matter how brief, you have moments and character actors that or stars that you kind of care about. And if you love film, you have to see it because it's the inflection point of old Hollywood and new Hollywood emerging. In a populist film that played everywhere, that everybody saw and embraced, and it made a ton of money in its day. And if you like these populist films now, compare and contrast, the dialogue will play funny to your ears because it is campy. And if you don't get all the jokes, it's okay. Like, I'm not convinced that my 20-something interns watching Airplane know who Harold Jarvis is, right? At the end with Proposition 13 of Airplane. That doesn't land because you don't know who he is, but it's still a funny joke where he's talking about money. So it works, but you don't know that what Jarvis was doing in that movie. There are going to be jokes that you don't get in this film, but that's okay because it's so entertaining. And if you see somebody you like, Google them, and it might lead you down a rabbit hole of watching really good films, which is what I love about older films. Sometimes I see somebody that's interesting and then it leads me to something else. So I just think it's entertaining.
Charlton Heston films everyone must see.
Okay.
The Apes.
Yes.
Omega Man.
Totally.
I'm forgetting one.
Soylent Green.
Airport 75 Earthquake.
Oh, I'm gonna add The Awakening because I have a weakness for it, and that's a Stephanie Zimbalist as opposed to Ephraim Zimbalist connection, sort of to Airplane 75. He plays her daughter, who when she turns 18.
In there, but
it is. It's just fun. It's just
like
fun.
None of that.
No.
None of that.
The Heston sci-fi trilogy for me is, which you mentioned, that's the Heston that I love. That's the one I grew up on, and I still love it.
And I also think that he made some interesting films, given his political reality. If you watch something like Omega Man and you see him lip syncing to the movie Woodstock, it's like, one of my favorite bits in Omega Man is when he is in like a pharmacy, and right behind him as he's having a conversation with his female lead, there's a big sign that says Planned Parenthood. I'm like, did they do that to just punk him? Because like, it's wonderful. it's also a really progressive movie in many ways. Aw,
Oh my God. Hey, let's do this.
Be bad, be best. You guys know the rules, right? It's either so bad, it's like don't bother to watch it, or it's like kind of so deliciously bad it's worth watching. So Todd, do you want to go first?
Sure, I'll happily go first. Let me find mine. Now, I like to, when we do these things, I like to pick something on theme. So all my choices have to do with plane movies tonight. Might be bad or be best, and I'm really curious to see what you guys say. Is this movie Soul Plane?
Wow.
Because the party is non-stop, you guys.
I like it.
It's got so many great comedic actors in it. Tom Arnold, Snoop Dogg. It's endless, the list.
He's friends with Martha Stewart.
It is. Is it be bad or be best for you guys?
I have, first of all, I've never even heard of it, much less seen it.
Well, judging by the poster, then
Beautiful.
I mean, you see the poster,
and that hot pink plane, right? So that means like it's a gotta see. It's a be best, right? Be best is the right one.
That
right?
sounds fair. Todd, are you there?
Yeah.
He's stunned.
Be best.
That's two be bests. Tracy, have you seen Soul Plane?
I have to admit, there may have been a Friday night with a lot of cocktails, and we wandered into this, and I thought it was really funny. I can't say I remember a lot of it, but I remember going, that was a hoot. Like, I just thought it was hilarious because, like, Snoop Dogg was at that moment when he was doing films like Bones, and I'm a film person. And I just thought it was fun because it didn't take itself seriously. And I thought it was a kind of a fun.
Early Kevin Hart, too. Early Kevin Hart.
Early Kevin Hart. Well, mine, I kind of is a theme because I thought there was a lot of like, is it misogyny? Is it feminism? What the heck did we just sit through with the way all the women in this film, Airport 75, were treated? So I was curious because I know David and Todd, I think we almost bonded over this with our friend Johnny, right? It's like Brian De Palma, we love. This is a film that was controversial when it came out for one reason, is now seen as controversial perhaps today for another reason. So woke, political, whatever aside, I am curious how you both feel if you were talking to, like, again, maybe a younger person now, be bad, be best. The classic Brian De Palma, because he always has to have his Hitchcock homages, Dressed to Kill.
Oh.
Right? He's the master of the macabre. Invites you to a showing of the latest fashion in murder.
I mean, Angie Dickinson. And the scene in the museum, and I mean, there's so many reasons to see that movie.
That is the classic.
That's 100% the best. There's not even, and also it's like there's one of those moments, and I actually don't like it when anybody is anti-woke, because being anti-woke just means like being an asshole. But it's like
usually,
but
Mr. Seinfeld.
It's one of those moments where I would say that you should, look the other way on those items from knowing when the film was made, because it's so smart, it's so fun, and that's just a great movie. It's no Blowout. Blowout is so good.
Blowout is like maybe his masterpiece. Like, I feel like
great movie.
If we were doing like an SAT question, I would be kind of like, De Palma is to Blowout, like Carpenter is to The Thing. Like there's certain like.
Yeah, but De Palma did Untouchables, and that's like,
I love Untouchables, but that's
so good. It's like
that's him playing by the studio rules in a way that's unusual. It's like when you see like David Lynch doing like Elephant Man, and you're like, oh, he made a studio picture that's the best.
Or Dune, because
dude, I like the old Dune better than new Dune. Anyway,
so do I, because it's shorter and there's really less sand.
I'm stinging a diaper over Chalamet anything. Bite me.
Yeah, I agree.
Todd, what about you, Dressed to Kill?
It's a B best for me. I'm hard pressed to think about two like De Palma films, or either I think that was fucking amazing, or I think that was so unnecessarily offensive and wrong that I love it. Body Double, all that shit. I find De Palma to be entirely fascinating. As a
I
film.
love him. It's a B best for me, and it's interesting because I had an opportunity to meet Nancy Allen and at one of these like kind of convention things.
Who always seems like the nicest fucking person. I don't know if you've watched RoboDoc on Amazon.
Yeah.
It's 4 hours of just the making of RoboCop.
Wow.
Like her presence in it, it's like, you know, versus Peter Wellers and all these other people. It's like,
Yeah.
she's so kind and
So nice.
generous and
So
grateful. And yeah.
Well, it's funny because I was walking through going to this thing, kind of a work thing, and I saw, oh my God, that's like Nancy Allen. I like love all her stuff. So I just walked over and, you know, she was signing. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna buy a picture and have her sign it. And, you know, she had all the movies, you know, it was like Carrie, whatever, all the great stuff she's done. And I specifically went for Dress to Kill, not even though Blowout's my favorite, because I just feel like that film is kind of misunderstood and whatever. And it was funny because she was like, oh, that's so interesting. She's like, I don't even know if I should be signing some of these now. And she's like, you know, it's what's funny. And she said, when Dress to Kill first came out, I was attacked because there's a bias against sex workers. I was told I had no agency. I was told I was being exploited by my then husband, the director, and it was all about you hate women. And she's like, that's not true. I actually thought I was sexually empowered. There's nothing wrong with like enjoying sex and owning it. And she completely was like, I don't know what these people wanted from me, but now I'm okay. Now I'm seen as the empowered character I thought I was playing at the time. But now there's a modern read for some that it's an anti-trans film. She's like, there was no version of us thinking that when we made it. I understand times are different. And she was very delicate and very respectful about the way she talked about it. But she's like, as an actress who's like a star in a movie that was attacked for one reason when it came out and is now, you know, she's had performances of it canceled. She was trying to do a charity to raise money for one of the animal charities. And it was supposed to be here downtown. And there was a feeling that that wasn't a movie that should be screened, and it got shut down.
Wow.
5 years ago. And she was like, I feel like I wanted to hear I wanted to hear what was being said, but I just know in our heart what we were doing. And it was really, she was so thoughtful about it. And I just thought, I really like this movie. And what I love about De Palma, honestly, is I think he's high art sleaze. And I mean that lovingly, because I think I like camp, but I also like the Grindhouse, but then I think he's a master director. And I think he's in on the jokes when a lot of people think he's being misogynistic. I don't think so. Like, I love Femme Fatale, and I get a lot of shit from my female friends. I think Rebecca's brilliant in that. I think she's in on the joke, as is De Palma. They know what they're doing. And I think he's like a misunderstood director sometimes. So I just wanted, I think it's the best, and I kind of wanted I was curious how, you know, our guests would feel about that.
How do you feel
right.
those things they put on movies now before you watch them and it says like, you know, this was made at another time and it might be totally offensive to you.
Right. Yeah.
Be best or get rid of it.
Contains depictions of people smoking.
Yeah. Uh-oh.
Yeah. Oh God.
Oh, my
Well,
best
I mean, for
friend,
me-
my hero smoking.
For me, it's the stuff that makes it bad that makes it best. I mean,
Yes.
bad in the way that we're talking about right now. I like stuff that pushes the envelope, and then you go back, and if you are pushing the envelope now, in 10 years, you're going to look like an asshole. And that's sort of what, as an artist or producer or whatever, you have to accept. If I'm going to do this, if I'm going to do something that's offensive now and challenges people now, which I think artists should, but if you're willing to do that, you have to also be willing to take, if it's successful on any level, you have to be willing to take the shit in 10 years. We should all know that now. And it should make you not feel bad in 10 years when they're telling you you're a monster. It should make you feel good. Because you did art.
One of my very favorite, funniest films ever made, but now you watch it and you're like, oh my God, every other joke is a rape joke, Eating Raoul.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
It is filled with the most
Yeah.
cringeworthy, like.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, it's
totally. But such a fucking engaging, great.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it's a great cult
Are
film.
time capsules, right? Like we do watch this Airport 75. We see the time capsule of it. And
Yes.
so it's like that we can look back and know, okay, well, that was not the right way to treat a woman. We know that. And we can see it really clearly. well, then they couldn't necessarily see it. So I'm sort of like, well, why would you want to now?
But that's a growth. That's yes.
Yeah.
Why would you want to know that
Acknowledge it,
that
yeah.
like that was a way that
Yeah, show it to people and let them think critically. It's like a thing that we should be able to do, but a lot of us can't. Let's do the boost.
The boost.
This is where Tracy and I just bring up titles of movies that maybe we think got forgotten about or people just didn't know about. And we say, hey, maybe you should watch this. I'll go first. This is terrible. I apologize in advance. But we were on this plane. I was in plane theme. I wanted to make my movies about planes. And there's this movie that I just recently made Hillary watch. Yeah, I didn't make her watch it. I talked her into watching it, which she was resistant to for a lot of years. And I think it's probably the best airplane, quote unquote, disaster movie ever made. It's by a director who I normally don't care for because he shakes the camera too much and I can't tell what's going on. And this movie is harrowing and it's very hard to get through. It will hurt you. And it should. And it's the right thing. And it's called United 93. It's by Paul Greengrass. I don't know if you guys have seen this movie, but I've seen it a bunch of times now, and it takes a lot of like courage for me to watch it again because I know what I'm about to go through. But every time I do, it's like cathartic. It's just tons of tears and tons of, because I was alive and 9/11 is one of our generation's things. But this is the only movie. I mean, World Trade Center by Oliver Stone. Most of the 9/11 movies that I've seen they don't honor it or do any justice to it or the victimhood of America. It's more about rah, rah, let's go kill other people from other countries. This is about regular people rising up within an instant situation, which they realize they will not survive. I mean, they all commit to that. And oh man, every time I watch this, it just kills me. I think it's so good and memorable. Like there's always scenes from it that I can easily access in my memory. It's one of the best movies about a tragedy that I've ever seen, real life.
Who's in it?
Nobody who's famous. That's another part of it. I mean,
it works.
There's an actor who I recognize, I think, from Ghostbusters in it. The guy from the library in the beginning of Ghostbusters who, is like, are you Alice menstruating right now? And the guy goes, what does that have to do with anything? Back off, man. I'm a scientist. So that guy that Bill Murray is talking to is in this movie. And there's a few recognizable, but only if you're me and you're actually a character actor and you're very aware of it. Most people, wouldn't. That I think helped a lot.
He specifically did that so that it wouldn't be like the star vehicle. And I think Eastwood tried to do something similar with the plane film no one saw that he did, like from Paris. I already forgot the title.
Black Sunday.
No, that's a classic. It's a recent last couple years.
The last couple years. Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, where he used the real people and I
thought you were talking about Greengrass's first film.
No, that was Sunday Bloody Sunday, was it? Or something?
Yeah, Sunday Bloody Sunday.
Sunday. But what I like about this film, which is great, because I agree with you. I think it's the best treatment of film on 9/11. But it does celebrate common people thrust into extraordinary circumstances and what happened on that plane. And we have a lot of people, some of them are orange, throwing around warriors and patriots as if they know what that means. This was a day of heroes, and this film really honors it. But I think why the film, I love that you boosted this. I haven't seen it for a while because it really destroyed me to watch it. It's very hard to watch.
It is.
But it feels like a documentary. And it's pure cinema in terms of the editing and the directing and Greengrass.
It's a documentary, but it's also just a straight up thriller, like edge of your seat thriller.
But it's like adult. It's smart. Like the idea that he can do that and then he can do Popcorn Born Identity when he wants to. Mm-hmm. He's really a talented filmmaker. But I think this is probably his most important film, and it's a great one. That I think you're right. I think it's so hard to see if people have forgotten it if they didn't see it. And
well, you don't. You don't want to. I don't, especially if you're a person who was alive when it happened, why the fuck would you want to go through that again? And that was my resistance to the movie initially. And then when I finally saw it, I was like, holy shit, that like
It's cinema.
it was cathartic for me as a person who, you know, I know people loosely related to people who are on planes, as we all probably do on some level or the other. But it really, I don't know, the humanity of it was weird. And I don't get that from Greengrass movies all the time.
No, this one's really special. It's a special movie. I love that. Yeah. Well, mine, I kind of went, I guess the thing, just thinking about Pride Month, I wanted to boost a movie that I'm not sure younger people have seen. And if you want like a kind of a starter movie to go back and watch classic films, I thought it would kind of work in the way I was thinking about the cast of Airport 75 might lead you to rabbit holes to watch great older movies. This is a documentary. It was released in 1996. It was based on the work of Vito Russo, who, of course, was a very important, film critic. He wrote this seminal book called, The Celluloid Closet. Howard Rosenman produced the film version of this, where we got everyone from like Tom Hanks, who had already just done Philadelphia at the time, Shirley MacLaine talking about The Children's Hour. You really look, and what Vito did was he looked at classic Hollywood movies, and it was like, what was the portrayal of LGBTQ folks from the beginning of silent cinema on? I mean, one of the first images ever captured on film, Thomas Edison with a very crude, kind of camera that, two men dancing together. And, going from that all the way to Philadelphia, where Hanks won an Oscar. And we talked very openly about things that were coded, how gay audiences see films differently than straight audiences. But like, wouldn't you know, hey, Maltese Falcon, what's going on with, certain characters? Oh, he smells like gardenia. Oh, there's this vaguely kind of Orient music coming in. He's sucking on it. You're like, what's happening? It's like they talk about coded and not coded, but about how progressive we have come and how much further we have to go to be seen. And I feel like we lost Vito to, a long time ago now, and his voice would be very much needed, I think, looking at kind of where we are with queer cinema now. But if you like movies, they take classic films that you think and you put it through his lens, and you might start to see it differently, whether you're gay or straight or whatnot. But it's a perfect curation of classic Hollywood all the way up through kind of the mid-90s of LGBTQ representation for good and for bad, with a whole smattering of stars weighing in. And I don't know that it's a documentary that gets seen enough. And so I just wanted to boost it in Pride Month because I think it's a real love letter to cinema. And we should know who Vito Russo is. And this is based on his work. So I want to talk about that.
Thank you.
Super.
I'm certainly not going to have any argument with that.
It's a good one. It's really fun.
It's good. I remember seeing it when it first came out. Yeah, it's definitely great. Let's do our final segment, which is called the Indie Effect, where we're going to present characters from movies that if they weren't in the movie, it wouldn't matter. They're completely useless characters. The idea is that Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark, if he hadn't been involved, it all would have happened anyway. The Nazis would have gotten the Ark and their faces would have melted off. If he hadn't been involved, it wouldn't matter.
It's like
I don't know
Island in Airport 75.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
There's an old woman reading Epicurean sexual delights and laughing with her old lady friend. What was that? Well done, John. Yes, true story.
Good. Do you want me to go first?
Go first.
All right, I'll go first. All right, so there's a movie that takes place on an airplane. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. It's called Snakes on a Plane.
Yeah.
And there's a passenger who's uncredited as being in the movie. But there is a passenger in the movie, and if you're paying attention, you notice him, and you're like, how the fuck did we have to look at that? And his name is R. Kelly. R. Kelly is in Snakes on a Plane because R. Kelly said to his management, they're making a movie called Snakes on a Plane? I want to be in that movie. And they got him into the movie. Didn't need it, and it would have been better without it even, I would say. Like for some reason, when he's on screen, I smell urine. I don't know what that is.
God. Thanks for that image. Oh my God, that's actually good. I mean, yeah, totally not memorable, but yeah.
No, if you
I do love that movie though. It's like you and I have talked about this before. Like when people are like, I just really expected more from Snakes and the Pain. I'm like, why?
Why?
It's like people who are like, I want to critique Cocaine Bear. I'm like, really?
What did you want from Cocaine
I
Bear?
was like, it's a trailer cut to white lines with a bear trying to eat an ambulance. Like, I'm good with what they did. I wasn't going, shit, I thought that'd be Citizen Kane. Goddamn, Elizabeth Banks, you blew it. No, it was fun and it was great. Popcorn was had by all.
She blew it with Charlie's Angels.
Well, that
not
I agree
Cocaine
with.
Bear.
That I agree with. I was like, girl, that should have been way more fun.
Yeah. But then she blamed me for it. So,
Yeah, I know. She's like, well, people just don't want to see female as action heroes. I'm like, Sigourney Weaver would like you to hold
Jesus
her.
Christ, it's the Charlie's Angels.
Yeah, I'm like, really? You guys don't wear bras and you barely come.
We all want to see. We all straight men want to see Charlie's
And a lot of us
Angels.
girls want to see it. Like, dude,
Yeah.
we understand the assignments. Charlie's
everybody
Angels.
does.
These are, after all, Charlie's Angels. What I love about this goes back to the 70s because it's the same era as the film we're talking about tonight. It's like they're private detectives who use their real names every week. They go undercover and they can't find their boss and they don't know what their boss looks like. I'm like, maybe you aren't a good detective. I'm just going to start there as a premise, and then we'll go from there. I mean, perhaps you're not like Columbo because you're like, I don't know where Charlie is. Have you seen him? I can't even find a picture. It's like,
I only ever hear his voice.
yeah, and I'm like, I think I've seen that guy in a movie. Anyway, I love that movie, and I didn't know if I ever knew who R. Kelly was before all the gross stuff. I didn't know when I saw that movie. So
I didn't either.
thanks, Todd. Okay, the one I want to boost, and I just want to preamble this with, I think Michael.
Oh, you mean Indie Effect? This is your Indie Effect.
Yeah, I think Michael Mann's one of our great directors historically. I've loved so many of his movies. The last
I have a lot of problems with Miami Vice because I watched the show, and most of the show took place during the day when Miami looks awesome. But he chose to make Miami Vice, the movie, take place entirely at night.
Yes. He's edgy.
Don't get it.
He was working with digital. It was a new thing. It's like Collateral. So, like, what I like though about Michael Mann is I think he's a really good filmmaker. The last couple of films I haven't loved as much, but like Thief, like you want to talk about great first films, like I feel like, or early films, I should say. Like that's one of them. I think it's amazing. Obviously, Heat speaks for itself. I think he's done a lot of amazing work that I really truly love. That being said, and maybe this falls into the De Palma group for me. I don't think Michael Mann knows what to do with female characters like almost ever. If you're not Tuesday Weld in Thief, and if you're not Amy Brenneman in Heat, I'm not sure he's ever made a female character that's like interesting. So for me, the Indie Effect, I'm going to put up, and I know she was nominated. I hated the performance. I hated the movie. I didn't think she did. Penelope Cruz being insane in Ferrari, I was like, he's cheating on you. He doesn't come home. You're angry. You yell. You scream. A car accident happens anyway. He does what he wants because he doesn't respect you. Penelope Cruz, you're crazy. You're the crazy woman, and she's great because she's a great actress. But I'm like, you don't change Ferrari at all. And I just feel like, why can't he write a great female character? I feel like most of his wives, like Ashley Judd, Al Pacino, you're late for dinner, the chicken's cold. Like that happens in a lot of his movies, and I just feel like he doesn't. He's weird with women. It's like I've talked about this before. Like I feel like. Maybe you want to be married to like, Chris, in Oppenheimer mode, right? But like, because I think is probably a good husband, but I don't think his female characters are great either. Whereas I feel like Jim Cameron, maybe not the best husband, but yeah, I love his female characters. So I think sometimes there are male directors who just don't know what to do.
And at least George Miller is really trying.
He's trying. I like George Miller. I just feel like Michael Mann is such an accomplished filmmaker, and he's helped so many of my female director friends get a start. Like he loves women, and he's a good guy in real life from what I've heard in terms of, supporting women in roles before it was cool. I just wish his female characters were better. But again, Tuesday Weld in Thief is beautiful. She's got that one scene in the diner with James Caan that I love, and I think Brenneman really shines in Heat. But I'm struggling for anybody else who really gets to do much. So I just kind of felt like, with Cruz, she can do anything and she's stunning. How does she not impact the movie Ferrari at all? Because that's like one half of what he's doing, right? Work life, I don't know. So that was my thing this week. I don't think she helped the movie, and she's so good. I'm jealous. I'd love to work with her.
I didn't watch Ferrari because I don't care about Ferrari. So
Fair
I'm
enough.
glad that women weren't used better in a story about Ferraris, the
But it's about
car
him.
that gives heterosexual guys dicks they don't have. But maybe women should have played a bigger part because that's
Or
what it's about, owning a Ferrari.
The wife impacted him in real life, but you wouldn't know that. It's kind of like how Oppenheimer in real life was suicidal and had a lot of doubts. You didn't see that in the film that won the Oscar, but it's true.
No. That's I don't want to get into that. That's something I don't want to get into.
But I want to, okay, another thing. We have to wrap it up.
Yeah.
But I just want to say, David and Todd, thank you so much for coming on and just
Yeah,
Oh, this is so fun. So nice to see you.
Very great.
It's so good to see
Is
you
there
guys.
something like coming up? I know it's a weird time right now, but is there something coming up you'd like people to know about or to look for or anything? I mean, you're writing something. You're at a writing retreat. What is happening? Can you talk about it?
Where they should both of the new books should be coming out next year. The sequel to 99 Miles from LA is called 24 Hours from Tulsa. Without giving too much away about 99 Miles, the main character ends up in Mexico with a lot of money. And so I decided to put myself into that scenario. And so it takes place in Mexico. And Mexico City, actually, by driving, is 24 hours from Tulsa.
Is that true?
I was continuing the theme of the song titles and the sort of crime fiction noir. So that one's probably 2025. I'm deep into a second draft. It's feeling good. About to kind of start sending out to those good friends who are good readers who maybe might be willing to take a read on it. Basically.
Yes. Amazing. And also, we put in the comments for people who are watching this on replay, where we get a lot of people watching. There's a link that you can click on to see everything Ebersol Hughes has done. There's their links, so you can catch up on both the film and the writings.
That's all new. EdHughCo.com, which is our new website.
Has everything.
It's actually, we wanted to build an archive. It was like writing a book, so that you can see everything that we have done, but also it takes you off to where you can get it. So
that's smart.
all the movies that
It
we
has
made,
all of
the way
our
back
short films.
I saw that you guys have been digitizing, and I love that.
and
So
all the way
it's fun
back
to
to
have
like
it
the stuff we did in high school. It's very fun.
I love it.
Dracula goes to the orthodontist.
Amazing. All right.
All right. Let's say good night. We'll see you next week when we talk about another shitty movie.
That may or may not really be shitty, because hashtag that's the show. So.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Good night.